On today's Locked On Islanders podcast, we'll talk about what the Islanders need to do to make a playoff run this year. It's not as insurmountable as you may think. We'll talk about the future goaltending of this team and a whole lot more. All that and more coming up on today's episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, and welcome to the weekend edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. So glad you could join us today, and thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and it's great to have you as part of the Locked On Islanders family. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show. We will break down exactly what the Islanders need to do to make the playoffs this year. It's not impossible, may not be easy, but it's definitely doable. We'll talk about that, break it down for you so you understand exactly what we're talking about. We'll take a look at we have a listener email question concerning the goaltender depth in the organization, and we have an Islanders birthday of the day that involves a current Islander, so make sure you stick around for that as well. If you've got something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, a topic that you'd like us to talk about on the show, feel free to send us an email. The email address, as always, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we are happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. You could also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders game, so make sure you join us for that. Always great to interact with fans at any time, but especially during games. I'll give instant insight and analysis, and we will have some fun talking about Islanders hockey. So let's get started with today's show, and we'll start with the playoff situation. What do the Islanders need to do in order to make the playoffs? So here's how I did it. I went back to the last full season of Islanders, of NHL hockey. Before COVID shortened the 2019-2020 season, truncated the 2020-2021 season. We're still hoping that despite Omicron and all of its issues, that we'll be able to get an 82-game schedule in. So the last time there was an 82-game schedule, you needed 98 points to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Now, let's assume that is again going to be the case this year. A point lower, a point higher. I think that's a solid benchmark to take that number. So right now, the Islanders have 26 points, okay? They've played 28 games, and they have 26 points, which means that there are 54 games left on the Islanders' schedule. And because of the postponements and cancellations and all of the maneuvers being done by the NHL, we already know that we're going to compress that schedule into a pretty tight window. In order to reach 98 points in 54 games, the Islanders need to pick up 72 points in those remaining games, which means that they need to secure 2 out of every 3 points left that they can possibly get. They need to have a winning percentage or a point percentage of 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 7, et cetera. 2/3 of the available points. Can they do that? Yeah, we have seen that this can do it. Is that an easy thing for this team to accomplish? No. No, it's not. But is it doable? Absolutely. And now the question becomes, can the Islanders do it? Look, the winning percentage is, a tough thing. But 2 points out of every 3. Okay, you break that down into 10 game segments. You need either 16 or 17 points out of every 10 games. So you go 8-1-1 or 8-2-0. You've got that. But it's not an easy thing. It could also be, 7-2 and, 7-1-2, 7-2-1. There's ways to figure it out, but it is a tall order for this hockey club to win consistently with that compressed schedule and everything else. It is not impossible. This team is capable of doing it. Look, in that last season, the Islanders had 103 points out of a possible 164. That's where they need to be, roughly, by the end of the season, as far as that's the winning percentage, roughly, that they need to do for the rest of the season. Roughly, in the ballpark. This team is capable of doing it. They are a veteran team. They are not going to they're not going to lose it. They're not going to be overwhelmed by this difficult situation that they find themselves in because of the slow start and the cancellations and everything else. They've got a lot of veteran leaders on this team. They've got a coach who has been through the wars in the NHL and understands what is necessary to get his team on the right track. It is going to require that there are a number of winning streaks. It is going to require, those, 8-1-1 or 8-2-3 kind of streaks. It's going to require a few of those. And it's going to require that they do it during West Coast trips and against a division that is stacked. Okay? The Rangers are looking pretty good so far this year. The Capitals are always good. The Penguins are red hot. The Hurricanes are a great team. You're going to have to pass at least one or two of those teams to make the playoffs. Will it be easy? No. Is it something that is theoretically possible? Yes. And here's another reason why I think it's possible. The Islanders have the defense and the goaltending that you need to stay in every game. Meaning that very rarely do you see this Islander team lose 5-1. Okay? They're either going to win 3-2 or lose 2-1, or, they're in every game. And Sorokin and Varlamov, especially as Varley gets back into shape and overcomes his injury and gets back into the groove, those two guys are able to keep this team in almost every game. And if they can continue to do that, I think that, they'll win enough games to make a solid run. The trade deadline is in March, and they have until then to show Lou Lamoriello that they are capable of making this run. And if they are, well, more power to them, because it's going to take a lot, but it is definitely doable. We've got more to discuss on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. We've got a listener email that will discuss the depth in the organization concerning goaltending. We'll take a look at our weekly power rankings from the Locked On Podcast Network. And Islander fans, I have an objection to it, and I think you will too. We've got our Islanders birthday of the day, a current Islanders player, so a lot more to get to on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Built Bar. It's the new year, and that means New Year's resolutions. And if yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. And Built Bar makes it easy to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good, you'll want to eat it. Unlike other protein bars, they could be chalky, waxy, or taste like a chemical spill. You want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring. But by week 3, you may be thinking, this is just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Well, Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, and most Built Bars contain just 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs. But they have 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. So lots of things to think about with the Built Bar. And look, so many great flavors. It's hard to pick which one you want. I mean, coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, which is my favorite, mint brownie, and many more. In fact, Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors as well. So check out Built.com often to see what's new. Go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So let's open up the mailbag. We have Ken in Minnesota who asked this. Hi, Gil. Hope your holidays went well. And listening to yesterday's podcast and was happy to hear about your analysis of Kiefer Bellows' play. We were really excited when he was drafted by the Islanders, having watched him come through the ranks out here in Minnesota. I feel we definitely need more of what he could bring to this team and a shoot-first mentality. I agree, Ken writes, about power forwards and defensemen taking longer to develop, but wanted to include goalies in that group. It seems like a lot of goalies don't come into their own until they're in their 30s. I'm interested in your thoughts on whether Jakob Skerrick would be ready to slot into the backup role if Varley was to be traded, or would Lou shop for a more seasoned backup? Thanks, Ken in Minnesota. Ken, thanks for the question and the email, and let's talk a little bit about that. So Skerrick is right now the number one goalie and his numbers in Bridgeport, he's played 20.04 goals against average, an 8-3 win-loss record, and a 9.02 save percentage. Now, look, Bridgeport is in last place right now in their division. They are struggling a bit, but, a little more competitive than they were in the last couple of years. But this is still not an elite AHL team, and those are respectable, not great, but respectable numbers. Skerrick was rated third round back in 2018. He's got 6'3", maybe 6'4", weight 5 pounds. The Czech Republic, he's worked his way up, playing against the Czech Republic as a teenager, has been on the average tax. Report Skerrick when he was entering the draft back in 2018. Good size, takes advantage of his size, plays the angle, has quick legs, and gets in and out of her fly very quickly. Forces shooters to beat him high, and is pretty good with his rebounds with his pads. The thing that needed some work is the rebounds with his blocker. Sometimes he gave up rather juicy rebounds as a result of that. He has a quick glove and isn't afraid to play the puck behind his goal, although he's not going to be the guy who makes those long breakout passes to spring another player. Skerrick, when he was originally drafted, was thought to have the potential to be a number one goalie in the NHL. And Ken, you made a good point as far as goalies taking longer to develop. And here's why. NHL teams almost never, or very rarely these days, draft a goalie in the first round. And part of the reason for that is that it's very hard to project where a goalie is going to be down the road. What a goalie is like at 18 is not necessarily what they're going to be like at 22, 24, 25, 28, etc. So, look, I'm not ready to give up on Skerrick as a potential number one goalie, but that really wasn't all of your question. And here is the question, as far as whether or not he would be a good enough backup goalie if they were to trade Varlamov or if Varley got hurt? I think he would be over the short run. But I also think this. Trotz. Those two would more likely turn to Corey Schneider this year before they would turn to Skerrick in that role. They would probably be more comfortable with the veteran, and Lou Lamoriello certainly knows Schneider from his time with the Devils. I think that would be more likely the option that the Islanders in 2022 would go to first. Now, if Schneider can't get the job done, would Skerrick be next in line? Probably yes. And next season, let's say, if Varley is traded in the offseason or gets hurt or whatever, then Skerrick probably has a better chance of making a fight for that backup role. The thing he needs to work on, and I think it's the thing that most goalies in this day and age need to work on when they're younger, is consistency. And we've seen that if you've been listening to the Farm Report, which we do every Wednesday here on the Locked On Islanders podcast, or if you've been watching some of the games for the Bridgeport Islanders. I almost said Sound Tigers. Sorry about that. Skerrick has these amazing games where he made 36 saves. They won 3-2. And then he'll have other games where he's just very, very, doesn't have a great game, lets in 4 or 5 goals. So the consistency really is the factor that he needs to work on. He does have the raw, natural talent, and hopefully the goaltending coaches down in Bridgeport can help him out with that. Wanted to talk now, and Ken, thanks again for the question. Wanted to talk now about our weekly power rankings that Locked On NHL puts out every week, and we all vote on it. And look, the Florida Panthers 1, Carolina Hurricane 2, Capitals 3, Leafs 4, Lightning 5. So those are your top 5. Then the Wild, Rangers, Avalanche, Flames, and Golden Knights fill out the top 10. Where do you think the Islanders are right now? Now, look, I know we're still in last place in the Metropolitan Division. Part of that is games in hand, we hope. The Islanders are 29th out of 32 teams in this poll. The Senators, Canadiens, and Coyotes are the only team behind us. I object to that. I really think that's way too low for this Islanders team. And to have the Sabres, Kraken, and Blackhawks all ahead of the Islanders at this point, I'm not so sure that that's legit. Wanted to know what you think, and if you are interested, the Thursday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast goes over the list and breaks it down, the surprises, the good points, the bad points, and it's always a listen, so you might want to check that out. But, get out when the Islanders resume play next week, got to get out there and show what you can do because 29th is just no respect at all. That is a Rodney Dangerfield number for the Islanders. And to me, way, way, way too low. When we come back, we'll have our Islanders birthday of the day, and it is a member of the New York Islanders. So make sure you join us for that and figure out who that is. More to come on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at BetOnline. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action in 2022. A new year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today, and you can receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. Locked On is one word, and yes, BetOnline.ag will give you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit because you listen to the Locked On Islanders podcast. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, so check out BetOnline where the game starts. All right, time for our Islanders birthday of the day. And believe it or not, today is the 22nd birthday of Islanders defenseman Noah Dobson, the Summerside Prince Edward Island native, taken in the first round of the 2018 draft by the Islanders, 12th overall, and is now in his third season with the Isles. This year, 5 goals, 14 points in 26 games, but boy, has his play up in the last, let's say, 5 to 7 games especially. We are starting to see more and more of the potential of Noah Dobson. So far, Dobson has played in 106 regular season games. He has 9 goals, 35 points, and 24 penalty minutes. He has a +3 rating for his career. And you can add playoff games. This is coming to the Warriors. And look at a very special moment in the career of Noah Dobson. We'll take you back to January 14th, 2020, a couple of months before COVID came, at the Nassau Coliseum. Islanders hosting the Detroit Red Wings in this one. The Red Wings going with Jimmy Howard in goal, while the Islanders had Thomas Greiss in between the pipes, and the Islanders jumped out quickly. Jordan Eberle getting his 6th, Matthew Barzal and Anders Lee with the helpers at 3:23. That made it 1-0 Isles. Less than a minute later, in fact, a mere 36 seconds later, Josh Bailey makes it 2-0 Islanders, his 9th. Tom Kuhnackel and Michael Dow-Cole with the assists. 2-0 Islanders. Islanders keep pouring it on. Brock Nelson, his 17th from Anthony Beauvillier at 7:56. 3-0 Islanders. Wasn't going to be that easy of a cakewalk, though. Philip Aronik gets his 9th for Detroit, with Robbie Fabry and Dylan Larkin getting the assist at 11:45. That made it 3-1. But with a minute and a half left exactly in the first period, Anders Lee answers for the Isles, his 14th, from Matthew Barzal and Jordan Eberle. 4-1 Isles after 1. In the second period, Brock Nelson extends the lead, his 2nd of the game, 18th of the season, unassisted at 1:59. And then a mere 41 seconds later, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Noah Dobson, his 1st of the year, 1st career NHL goal. Ryan Pulak and Leo Komarov with the assist at 2:40. 6-1 Isles after 1. In the third period, Beauvillier is 11th from Pulak and Nick Leddy at 5:12. Makes it 7-1. And then Uncle Leo got his 1st of the year from Scotty Mayfield at 9:07. A late goal by Giovanni Smith makes the final score Islanders 8 and the Red Wings 2. Jimmy Howard pulled in this game. Calvin Pickard came in and finished up, but Howard did get the loss for Thomas Greiss. 34 saves. Believe it or not, Islanders win the game 8-2 and are outshot 36-24 in this one. But a magic moment for our Islanders' birthday of the day. Noah Dobson, his 1st NHL goal. He had 2 shots on goal, was a +1 in this game, had 18 minutes and 14 seconds of ice time, which is a lot for Dobson back in his rookie season. So for Noah Dobson, his 22nd is today. We wish him a very happy and healthy birthday and success. In the Dobson gets, he will have a new career high for points in a season. 14 he has now, matched all of last season. Goal. So Dobson picking up his game, an important part of others, and it is great to wish a very happy and healthy birthday. You know, practice time this weekend before the Islanders have to resume game on all the latest news, notes, and happening on Twitter over the weekend. I am hopeful. I do believe we are getting close to having some real Islanders games again. It is a very strange and uneven kind of a season for Islander fans. We started with that long road trip. We had so many interruptions to the schedule. So, yeah, it's, we are now less than a week away from the resumption of play, which is scheduled for next Thursday when the Islanders host the New Jersey Devils. And that's a 7:30 start at the UBS Arena. Hopefully, it'll stay on the schedule and we can go from there. Anyway, I want to thank everybody once again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets. It's your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Have a great weekend, everyone. Hope the snow that we are having doesn't ruin your plans too much and that you get to work safely. Enjoy this weekend. We'll keep you up to date on Twitter for all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.